Welcome to Cosmic Whispers, where cosmic mysteries come alive. Your journey beyond the stars begins now. In the frigid outer reaches of our solar system, where sunlight arrives as merely a distant glimmer, a world of extraordinary possibility has captured humanity's imagination for decades. Europa, the smallest of Jupiter's 4 Galilean moons, orbits the gas giant at a distance of over 670 million kilometers from Earth. Yet despite this vast separation, recent findings have brought this icy satellite closer than ever to the center of our search for extraterrestrial life. The story begins not with the latest breakthrough, but with a journey that started in 2022, when NASA's sophisticated Europa Clipper mission launched toward the Jovian system. After a 3-year journey utilizing gravity assists from Mars and Earth, the spacecraft arrived in Jupiter's orbit in early 2024. Its primary mission: to conduct nearly 50 close flybys of Europa, capturing unprecedented high-resolution images of the Moon's mysterious surface features. Every great journey starts with a few brave explorers. Right now, Cosmic Whispers is just beginning, and your support means everything. If you enjoy unraveling the mysteries of the universe, hit subscribe. It's free, and it helps us grow this community together. What makes Europa so captivating to planetary scientists isn't merely its cracked, icy exterior, though these features have puzzled researchers since the Voyager missions first glimpsed them in the late 1970s. It's what likely lies beneath a global subsurface ocean containing more liquid water than all of Earth's oceans combined. This vast aquatic environment has remained liquid for billions of years, warmed not by the distant sun but by tidal flexing, the gravitational push and pull from Jupiter and neighboring moons that generates internal heat. For decades, scientists could only theorize about the composition of Europa's ocean based on limited data from distant observations. The Galileo mission, which orbited Jupiter from 1995 to 2003, provided tantalizing clues but left countless questions unanswered. The Europa Clipper mission was designed specifically to address these knowledge gaps with instruments capable of peering beneath the icy shell. The breakthrough announced last month by NASA researchers represents a fundamental shift in our understanding of Europa's surface environment. Using the spacecraft's near-infrared spectrometer, scientists detected unmistakable signatures of complex organic compounds concentrated around geological features known as chaos terrains, disrupted regions where the icy crust appears to have been broken apart, shifted, and refrozen. These aren't just any organic molecules. The specific chemical signatures identified match those of amino acids, the fundamental building blocks of proteins essential to all life on Earth. While researchers are quick to emphasize that finding organic compounds doesn't equate to discovering life, the presence of these specific biomolecules in regions where subsurface ocean material may have reached the surface represents a crucial missing piece in understanding Europa's potential habitability. What's particularly exciting about these findings, explains Dr. Morgan Chen, principal investigator for Europa Clipper's spectrometer instrument, is not just the presence of these compounds, but their distribution pattern and concentration levels. They appear most abundantly in younger geological features, suggesting relatively recent or even ongoing processes, bringing them to the surface. This discovery has immediately elevated Europa's status in the hierarchy of potentially habitable worlds in our solar system, positioning it alongside Saturn's moon Enceladus as a prime target in humanity's search for life beyond Earth. The comprehensive mapping of Europa's organic materials marks a watershed moment in planetary exploration, but it represents just one facet of NASA's recent discoveries. Equally significant is what the Europa Clipper mission has revealed about the Moon's geological activity, specifically evidence of what appears to be contemporary cryovolcanism on a scale previously thought impossible. Cryovolcanoes, often called ice volcanoes, erupt water, ammonia, or methane rather than molten rock. While scientists have observed cryovolcanic activity on several outer solar system bodies, including Saturn's moon Enceladus and the dwarf planet Pluto, the phenomenon detected on Europa operates on an entirely different scale. During its 18th flyby in August 2024, Europa Clipper's cameras captured high-resolution images of an active eruption from one of the Moon's southern hemisphere fissures. The plume, extending more than 200 kilometers above the surface, consisted primarily of water vapor and ice particles, but also contained those same organic compounds identified elsewhere on the surface. We've suspected for years that Europa might have active plumes based on Hubble Space Telescope observations from 2012 and 2016, notes Dr. Alma Rodriguez, Europa Clipper imaging team lead. But direct observation of an eruption in progress provides definitive confirmation and allows us to analyze the composition of materials being transported from the subsurface to space. The timing of this observation proved fortuitous. The mission's plasma instrument and mass spectrometer were able to directly sample particles from the plume, revealing not just water and organics, but also significant concentrations of sodium chloride, common table salt, along with potassium and magnesium salts. This chemical profile strongly suggests that Europa's subsurface ocean is in direct contact with the Moon's rocky core, creating a water-rock interface where chemical reactions essential for life could potentially occur. On Earth, similar environments at deep-sea hydrothermal vents support thriving biological communities completely independent of sunlight, deriving energy instead from chemical processes. The detection of these salts within the plume material represents a major advancement over previous observations. While earlier missions had suggested Europa's ocean might be salty, the specific ionic composition remained unknown. This new data indicates an ocean chemistry remarkably similar to Earth's seas, a finding with profound implications for Europa's habitability. Perhaps most surprising was the detection of molecular hydrogen, H2, within the plume. On Earth, hydrogen serves as a vital energy source for certain types of microorganisms, particularly in deep ocean environments far from sunlight. Its presence in Europa's plume suggests ongoing chemical reactions between the liquid water and rocky materials that could potentially support simple forms of life. Finding molecular hydrogen is like discovering that Europa has its own built-in fuel source, explains astrobiologist Dr. Wei Zhang. Combined with the presence of carbon dioxide and the organic compounds we've identified, Europa essentially has the basic chemical ingredients that certain microorganisms on Earth would recognize as food. The cryovolcanic activity also offers planetary scientists unprecedented insight into Europa's enigmatic geology. Each eruption brings subsurface material to where instruments can analyze it without the need to drill through potentially kilometers of solid ice, a technological feat well beyond current capabilities. This continuous recycling between surface and subsurface environments creates dynamic conditions vastly different from the static, frozen world many once imagined Europa to be. Instead, it appears to be a geologically active moon, where material and energy constantly circulate between different environmental zones. What we're seeing is essentially a planetary-scale conveyor belt, Rodriguez continues. Material from the subsurface ocean makes its way to the surface through these eruptions, becomes altered by radiation from Jupiter's intense magnetosphere, and eventually may cycle back down through cracks and subduction zones in the ice shell. One of the most significant aspects of the Europa Clipper mission's recent findings involves comprehensive mapping of the Moon's surface in unprecedented detail. Using its advanced radar instrument, the spacecraft has penetrated Europa's icy crust to depths of several kilometers, revealing a complex subsurface architecture that challenges previous models of the Moon's structure. Rather than a uniform shell of ice encasing the global ocean, Europa's crust appears remarkably heterogeneous. In some regions, particularly near the equator, the ice extends to depths of 20 to 25 kilometers. However, at higher latitudes, the spacecraft detected areas where the solid ice layer thins dramatically to perhaps as little as 2 to 3 kilometers, a distance potentially within reach of future lander missions equipped with specialized drilling equipment. The variation in ice shell thickness wasn't entirely unexpected, explains Dr. Keisha Washington, deputy project scientist for the Europa Clipper mission, but the extremity of the differences and their correlation with specific surface features provides crucial information about how heat is distributed throughout Europa's system. Most intriguing are the numerous locations where the radar data reveals apparent chambers of liquid water suspended within the ice shell itself. Subsurface lakes, analogous to Antarctica's Lake Vostok, but potentially more accessible to exploration. These perched water bodies, some as large as Lake Superior on Earth, exist at varying depths between 5 and 15 kilometers beneath the surface. The discovery of these embedded lakes fundamentally alters our conception of Europa's habitability equation. Previously, scientists considered the deep ocean, separated from the surface by kilometers of solid ice, as the only potential abode for life. Now, these intermediate water reservoirs represent additional habitable zones, some potentially receiving chemical nutrients from both above and below. These lakes create fascinating possibilities, notes Washington. They might serve as isolated evolutionary laboratories where unique forms of life could develop independently from the main ocean below. Alternatively, they could function as way stations where life forms from the deep ocean could survive closer to the surface in protected environments. Equally compelling is what the mapping reveals about the communication between Europa's surface and subsurface. The radar identified numerous vertical channels, some extending from the surface all the way to the global ocean, particularly concentrated around the chaos terrain regions where the organic compounds were most abundant. These channels appear to facilitate the movement of materials in both directions, creating pathways for ocean chemistry to influence surface composition and for surface materials, altered by Jupiter's intense radiation environment, to be recycled back into the ocean. This dynamic exchange has profound implications for understanding Europa as an integrated system rather than a series of isolated environments. It suggests a moon experiencing continuous cycling of materials through different physical and chemical regimes, creating diverse conditions that could potentially support various forms of life adapted to specific niches. The mapping also revealed another startling feature: vast networks of interconnected caverns within the upper 5 kilometers of ice in several regions. These cave systems, some extending for hundreds of kilometers, appear to have formed through a process similar to karst formation on Earth, where flowing water gradually dissolves surrounding material. So on Europa, slightly warmer, saltier water may be slowly carving passages through the colder ice matrix. These cavern networks create a third potential habitat type, explains astrobiologist Dr. Carlos Menendez, who was not involved in the mission, but specializes in extremophile organisms. On Earth, cave ecosystems often evolve highly specialized organisms adapted to stable but resource-limited environments. Europa's ice caves might represent similar evolutionary opportunities. The Europa Clipper's mapping campaign is ongoing, with each successive flyby adding detail to the emerging picture of the Moon's complex architecture. Current coverage extends to approximately 70% of the total surface, with particular emphasis on regions displaying unusual thermal or compositional signatures. What's becoming increasingly clear, Washington concludes, is that Europa isn't simply an ice ball with an ocean underneath. It's a complex, layered world with multiple environments, each with unique properties that might be conducive to different forms of life. Perhaps the most groundbreaking aspect of NASA's recent Europa findings involves the detailed chemical analysis of both surface materials and plume particles. Using a combination of mass spectrometry, infrared spectroscopy, and ultraviolet imaging, scientists have compiled the most comprehensive inventory to date of Europa's chemical composition, revealing a complex organic chemistry far more advanced than previously theorized. Beyond the already mentioned amino acids, researchers identified a suite of organic compounds including several nucleobases, the fundamental components of DNA and RNA, concentrated particularly around the margins of chaos terrain features. The specific compounds detected include adenine and guanine, two of the 4 nucleobases found in DNA, along with uracil, which appears in RNA. While these molecules can form through non-biological processes, Their concentration patterns and association with specific geological features suggest they aren't merely the result of random chemical reactions. Finding nucleobases doesn't mean we've found life, but it does mean we've found crucial building blocks required for life as we understand it, clarifies Dr. Isabella Morales, an astrochemist with the Europa Clipper science team. The diversity and complexity of the organic compounds we're detecting points to sustained chemical evolution rather than simple one-off reactions. Equally significant is the detection of phosphates, chemical compounds containing phosphorus that are essential to all known cellular life on Earth. Phosphates serve as crucial structural components in DNA and RNA and play a central role in energy transfer within living organisms through molecules like adenosine triphosphate, ATP. The confirmed presence of these compounds substantially strengthens the case for Europa as a potentially habitable environment. The chemical analysis also revealed surprising concentrations of hydrogen peroxide, H2O2, in surface ice, particularly in regions exposed to the highest radiation levels from Jupiter's magnetosphere. While toxic to many Earth organisms in high concentrations, hydrogen peroxide can serve as both an oxidant and an energy source for certain extremophile microorganisms. Its presence creates the potential for oxidation reduction, redox chemistry, the same fundamental type of chemical reaction that powers most life on Earth. What we're seeing is essentially a naturally occurring system that generates chemical energy, explains Morales. Jupiter's radiation splits water molecules on Europa's surface, producing hydrogen peroxide and other oxidants. When these compounds eventually make their way into the subsurface ocean, they could react with reductants likely present in the water, releasing energy that could potentially be harnessed by living organisms. This process creates what scientists call a redox gradient, a chemical battery of sorts that provides the energy needed to drive the formation of complex organic molecules and potentially support metabolism. Similar systems power ecosystems on Earth in deep-sea hydrothermal vents, where chemical energy rather than sunlight drives the food web. Perhaps most tantalizing among the new findings is the detection of structures that resemble membrane forming. Compounds, specifically amphiphilic molecules, those having both water-attracting and water-repelling segments, similar to phospholipids that form cell membranes in Earth organisms. While these compounds can also form abiotically under certain conditions, their presence alongside the other biomolecules significantly enhances the case for Europa's biochemical potential. The detection of potential membrane-forming compounds is particularly exciting, notes Dr. Javier Kim, exobiology team lead. For life as we know it to exist, you need compartmentalization, some way to separate the inside of a cell from the outside environment. Finding molecules that could potentially create those boundaries, along with the building blocks for genetic material and energy transfer systems, means we're identifying all the major requirements for life to potentially exist. The comprehensive chemical analysis also extended to inorganic compounds, revealing a complex mixture of salts and minerals consistent with an ocean that has been interacting with a rocky seafloor for billions of years. The specific mineral signatures, detected in plume material, suggest hydrothermal activity, underwater volcanic systems that on Earth create some of the most biologically productive environments in the deep ocean. While Europa Clipper cannot directly sample the subsurface ocean, the mission's sophisticated magnetometer has provided unprecedented insight into its properties by measuring the Moon's induced magnetic field. This field emerges as Europa travels through Jupiter's powerful magnetic environment, and its characteristics depend directly on the electrical conductivity of the subsurface ocean, a property determined by its salinity, depth, and composition. The new magnetometer data confirms previous suspicions that Europa's ocean is remarkably deep, likely 60 to 150 kilometers from the base of the ice shell to the rocky core. This makes it over twice as deep as Earth's deepest ocean trenches and represents a water volume exceeding all of Earth's oceans combined by approximately 2 to 3 times. What's particularly notable about the magnetic signature, explains Dr. Robert Miyamoto, Europa Clipper magnetometer lead, is that it indicates significant circulation patterns within the ocean itself. We're detecting variations that strongly suggest the presence of ocean currents analogous to those on Earth, driven by a combination of Europa's rotation and internal heat distribution. These currents would play a crucial role in any potential ecosystem by distributing nutrients, heat, and possibly even microorganisms throughout the ocean volume. On Earth, ocean currents serve as biological highways that connect disparate ecosystems and maintain temperature equilibrium across vast distances. Europa's currents might serve similar functions despite the absence of solar heating that drives Earth's oceanic circulation. The magnetometer data also provides evidence for hydrothermal activity at the ocean floor, submarine volcanic systems, where superheated water interacts with the rocky core. On Earth, such hydrothermal vent systems support entire ecosystems independent of sunlight, deriving energy instead from chemical reactions between the hot, mineral-rich vent fluids and cooler ocean water. The magnetic field variations we're detecting strongly suggest substantial heat flow from the rocky interior into the ocean, continues Miyamoto. Combined with what we know about Europa's composition, this makes hydrothermal systems not just possible but probable over significant regions of the seafloor. This finding dramatically expands Europa's habitability profile. Such systems would provide not only heat in an otherwise cold environment, but also a steady supply of chemical nutrients, essential for biological processes. The energy available from these chemical gradients could potentially support an ecosystem comparable in biomass to Earth's deep-sea hydrothermal communities. Further insights into the subsurface environment come from Europa Clipper's gravity measurements, which have allowed scientists to refine models of the Moon's internal structure. These data confirm that Europa's rocky core is likely similar in composition to stony meteorites called chondrites, containing the essential elements for life including carbon, nitrogen, sulfur, phosphorus, and various metals important for biological processes. The gravity data gives us confidence that Europa's core contains the necessary elemental inventory for life, notes planetary geophysicist Dr. Sophia Patil. Importantly, the core appears to remain geologically active, which would facilitate the ongoing release of these elements into the ocean through hydrothermal processes. Perhaps most intriguing is what the combined gravity and magnetic data reveal about potential habitable niches within the ocean itself. The measurements suggest density stratification within the water column, essentially layers of water, with different properties stacked vertically, similar to how Earth's oceans form distinct layers based on temperature and salinity. This stratification creates multiple potential habitable zones with different characteristics, explains Patel. Near the ice-ocean interface, you might have conditions suitable for organisms that metabolize compounds created by surface radiation. In the middle ocean, you could have ecological niches similar to Earth's pelagic zones, and near the seafloor, hydrothermal systems might support completely different communities adapted to those unique conditions. The gravity measurements also revealed something unexpected, evidence of topography on the ocean floor. Unlike earlier models that assumed a relatively uniform rocky bottom, the data indicates the presence of vast mountain ranges and deep trenches, creating vertical relief, potentially exceeding Mount Everest's height on Earth. This topographical complexity would create numerous microclimates and ecological niches, potentially supporting greater biodiversity if life exists there. While the Europa Clipper mission wasn't specifically designed to detect life directly, its instrument suite has been carefully calibrated to identify potential biosignatures, indicators that would be difficult to explain through non-biological processes alone. The recent findings include several such potential biosignatures that have generated intense scientific debate and will drive research priorities for future missions. Among the most compelling potential biosignatures is the detection of significantly elevated methane concentrations within the plume material. While methane can be produced through various geological processes, the specific isotopic ratio of carbon in the detected methane, with a notable enrichment of carbon-12 compared to carbon-13, matches patterns typically associated with biological methane production on Earth. The methane isotope ratios we're seeing fall within the range that would be consistent with biological methanogenesis, explains Dr. Thomas Nguyen, Europa Clipper atmospheric chemistry specialist. In terrestrial systems, certain microorganisms preferentially utilize carbon-12 during metabolism, leading to this distinctive isotopic signature. Finding the same pattern on Europa doesn't prove biological activity, but it certainly adds another piece to an increasingly interesting puzzle. Additionally, the mission detected trace amounts of several gases that, on Earth, are primarily produced through biological processes. These include dimethyl sulfide, DMS, a compound almost exclusively produced by marine phytoplankton on our planet, and certain methyl halides that likewise have predominantly biological sources in terrestrial environments. Perhaps most tantalizing is the detection of seasonal variations in the concentrations of these potential biosignatures. Over the 8 months of intensive observation, scientists documented cyclical changes in the abundance of certain compounds that correlate with Europa's orbital position relative to Jupiter. These variations suggest dynamic, ongoing processes rather than static chemical equilibria. What makes the seasonal variations particularly intriguing from an astrobiological perspective, notes Dr. Elena Kuznetsova, exobiology team member, is that they follow patterns you might expect if biological processes were responding to changes in environmental conditions. As Europa moves through different parts of Jupiter's magnetosphere, radiation intensity at the surface varies, potentially affecting any biological activity in near-surface environments. The mission has also documented chemical disequilibria, situations where certain compounds coexist despite their tendency to react with each other. On Earth, such disequilibria often indicate biological activity, as organisms continuously produce compounds that would otherwise react away to reach chemical equilibrium. The persistence of both oxidizing and reducing compounds in close proximity within Europa's system suggests processes actively maintaining this imbalance. Finding chemical disequilibria doesn't directly prove life exists, cautions Kuznetsova, but it does indicate available energy that could potentially support biological processes. Something is preventing these chemical systems from reaching equilibrium, and on Earth, that something is often life. Beyond chemical signatures, the mission has documented physical features that bear striking similarities to microbially influenced structures on Earth. High-resolution imagery of certain surface regions reveals intricate patterns in mineral deposits around apparent upwelling sites that resemble biofilms or microbial mats in terrestrial hot springs. The structural similarities are compelling, acknowledges Dr. Michael Okafor, geology team lead, though we must be extremely careful about drawing biological conclusions from morphological features alone. History has taught us that apparent biosignatures can have abiotic explanations we hadn't considered. This scientific caution underscores the challenge facing researchers, distinguishing genuine biosignatures from abiotic mimics. While the cumulative evidence is suggestive, none of the potential biosignatures identified thus far constitutes definitive proof of life on Europa. What we have is a series of indicators that, taken together, are consistent with biological activity, summarizes mission principal investigator Dr. Sarah McKay. But consistency with biology doesn't exclude non-biological explanations. Each potential biosignature needs rigorous examination against all possible abiotic mechanisms before we can draw stronger conclusions. The groundbreaking discoveries from the Europa Clipper mission have fundamentally transformed our understanding of this enigmatic moon, but they represent only the beginning of humanity's exploration of this potential haven for extraterrestrial life. Building on these findings, space agencies worldwide are accelerating plans for follow-up missions designed specifically to search for definitive evidence of biological activity. NASA has already approved development of the Europa lander mission, scheduled for launch in 2027 with arrival at Jupiter in 2031. Unlike the Clipper, which conducted multiple flybys, the lander will descend directly to Europa's surface, targeting one of the newly identified thin ice regions where the subsurface ocean appears most accessible. The lander mission has been completely reconfigured based on Clipper's findings, explains Dr. Hiroshi Tanaka, Europa lander program scientist. We've selected landing sites near active Plumes sources, where we now know organic rich material from the ocean is being deposited on the surface. This dramatically increases our chances of finding biosignatures, if they exist. The lander will carry a sophisticated suite of life detection instruments, including advanced mass spectrometers capable of identifying complex organic molecules with unprecedented precision, microscopic imaging systems that could potentially visualize microbial cells directly, and chemical analysis tools designed to detect metabolic activity in real time. Perhaps most ambitious is the lander's sampling mechanism, a thermal drill capable of penetrating up to 10 meters into Europa's ice to access regions protected from Jupiter's harsh radiation environment, where any potential biological material would be better preserved. Based on what Clipper has shown us about the distribution of organics and the ice shell structure, even a relatively shallow drill could potentially access regions where biosignatures would remain intact for thousands, or even millions of years, notes Tanaka. Meanwhile, the European Space Agency and Japan's JAXA have announced a joint mission called the Europa Ocean Explorer, featuring an innovative cryobot designed to melt through the ice shell at one of the identified thin spots and release a submersible probe into the subsurface ocean itself. The technological challenges are immense, acknowledges Dr. Sophia Lindholm, ESA's mission director, but Clipper's discovery of regions where the ice may be only 2 to 3 kilometers thick makes this approach feasible with near-term technology. 20 years ago, we thought the ice might be uniformly 20-plus kilometers thick, which would have been beyond our capabilities to penetrate. The submersible would carry instruments capable of directly sampling ocean water, analyzing its complete chemical profile, and potentially even capturing images of any macroscopic marine organisms. Though most astrobiologists expect that if life exists on Europa, it's likely microbial in nature. Looking further ahead, planetary scientists have begun conceptualizing even more ambitious missions. One proposal involves a network of small landers distributed across Europa's surface to monitor seismic activity, helping map the ice shell structure in greater detail and potentially even detect movements within the ocean itself. Another concept envisions sample return capabilities, bringing material from Europa back to Earth, where it could be studied with the full power of terrestrial laboratories. The Holy Grail would be returning samples of Europa's ocean material to Earth, explains Dr. Aisha Mbeki, an astrobiologist consulting on future mission concepts. Even with advances in space-based instrumentation, the analytical capabilities available in terrestrial labs far exceed what we can currently send to Jupiter. A sample return mission would enable analyses at molecular levels impossible to achieve with spacecraft instruments. The scientific community has also begun grappling with the profound implications should definitive evidence of life be discovered on Europa. Such a finding would have revolutionary consequences for our understanding of biology, suggesting that life might be a common outcome of planetary evolution rather than an extraordinary rarity. Finding a second genesis of life within our own solar system would fundamentally change our perspective on life in the universe, reflects Mbeki. If life evolved independently on two worlds in a single star system, the implications for its potential abundance throughout the galaxy would be staggering. As these missions move from concept to reality, one thing remains clear. Europa has emerged as the frontrunner in humanity's search for extraterrestrial life. What began decades ago as speculation about a distant icy moon has evolved into one of science's most compelling mysteries, one that the coming generation of missions seems increasingly likely to solve. We stand at a unique moment in human history, concludes Dr. McKay. For the first time, we have not just the theoretical understanding, but the technological capability to definitively answer one of humanity's most profound questions. Are we alone in the universe? Europa may soon provide that answer.